You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it the wrong way.
This is Play-by-PlayCast, the world's #1 sports media podcast. Wait, what?
Nobody's fact-checking it. Just keep going.
Here we go.
Who the hell is Happy Gilmore?
Got all that on camera, right, John?
Sure, I did.
All right, because the red light was not on.
The podcast about play-by-play broadcasters for play-by-play broadcasters, hosted by a play-by-play broadcaster.
Oh, you can stick me in some kind of Italian boat because that one is gondola.
Now, from New York, really?
All the big ones are from New York.
Your host, Joe Godet.
It's still Joel.
Yeah, he will not be able to see very well, Cotton.
Well, it has, it's been a week, that's for sure. Or if you're talking about Play-by-PlayCast, it has, it's been a few months. Welcome back into the podcast, everybody, on this, the first day without sports. My name is Joel Godet. This is PXPcast. It's the podcast about play-by-play broadcasters for play-by-play broadcasters, hosted by one. It is a professional development podcast that dives into the tips, tricks, experience, stories, process, and preparations of some of the biggest and best play-by-play announcers in the business. On social media at PXPcast, email me jgodett@bsu.edu. All right, a couple of things to get to here. First things first, elephant in the room. We have gone away since October. This is our first podcast in a couple of months. If you've been missing us, welcome back. I will say this much. In October, when the podcast went away, it went away because I just had 1 week where I was really busy and I just didn't get to an episode. And it was kind of refreshing. Because what wound up happening when you do a podcast every week, and I think we'd missed 1 or 2 weeks for the course of 3 years, for that long, it turned into at times a rat race to get guests every week. And it took away, for me, at that point, having done it for so long, some of the enjoyment of doing the podcast, because it wasn't just about me being able to call people and pick their brains and learn and grow, but it became about me making sure I had a guest. And I always felt like I was sending emails and emails and emails and chasing. And sometimes, if you get straight to a broadcaster, you're usually pretty good. But if you go through PR people, I haven't had the best luck in that. And you get a lot of not interested at this time. Well, I'll ask them, and then you never hear again. And that got to be old after a while. And it just became a slog. And I wasn't giving the attention to the process and to the people that I wanted to and that I needed to. And for me personally, it became nice and refreshing in some respects to be able to take that step back. So for that, I apologize to all of you that have waited on bated breath every Friday morning for the last several months for a new episode. But I just wanted to give you that explanation as far as where we had gone off the top. That also being said, as this podcast has renewed, and it's been something I've thought about doing really over the last couple of months, I don't want to promise going forward a brand new episode every Friday morning again, because I don't want to get back into that hamster wheel every single week. But what I do want to do is provide really quality content for you guys, conversations for you guys, learning experiences for you guys, and for myself as well. And in honesty, one of my favorite podcasts, I'm a big CrossFit guy. If you've listened to the podcast, that has come up a few times. It's called Pursuing Health. It's a podcast about health, not about CrossFit, but by CrossFit Games athlete Julie Fouché. And it comes out when it comes out. She drops a new episode when she has one. And they're good. And when it pops up, you're like, oh, good, a new one. And that, I think, will become more the route of what Play-by-PlayCast becomes going forward. So we want to have a brand new episode every Friday. They will come out regularly, but I will not promise that there will be a new one exactly on Friday and exactly every week. There'll be a new one when they come out, and they will be very good and awesome, and you guys will certainly enjoy them. And I think that is the most productive schedule for all of us going forward. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me on that note as well. All of that said, I think I heard more about the podcast and how much people listened to it since I stopped doing it than I ever did when we actually churned these out every week. And that was really cool, just to hear about, even though the podcast wasn't happening, there wasn't a new one every week, I had new people reaching out to me. I got a new one, like I got an email yesterday from somebody who had found the podcast and was really thrilled by it. And they were like, I listen to them all the time, and I listened to, I'm churning through them, and like I didn't want to tell them that after 168 they run out of episodes, but it was really cool and inspiring from my standpoint to hear all of you enjoying it, asking for new episodes, in some cases like demanding new episodes. Adam Jackson, Central Michigan, I'm talking to you. But it's been really cool to know that all of you guys really have enjoyed this and really we're looking forward to its return. So we are back. That being said, let's get into the news before we get to our guest today, because yesterday was a thing that happened. I'll talk to you about it from my perspective. I was in Cleveland for the Mid-American Conference Tournament. On Wednesday night, I was shooting video for the Ball State women. They got bounced by Eastern Michigan on Wednesday night in the quarterfinals. And shot the video and edited my piece, and then went out to grab some late dinner with a bunch of friends and other staffers from some other schools that were there. And that was when we saw on television that Rudy Gobert had tested positive for the coronavirus. And the first thing that came into my mind was I was, in the car that morning listening to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, and Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander were both saying all this is going to take is one person to test positive, one player to test positive, because that player will have contacted other players, will have gone through the handshake line. The example they used was, can you imagine if someone's playing Duke in the first round? And, can players overcome this? Yeah, absolutely. If you're an in-shape young person, you are not considered at risk for the coronavirus. But if this player contracts it and goes through the handshake line and shakes hands with Coach K, who is 73 years old, well, he is in the at-risk age group. And are we going to quarantine Coach K for 2 weeks during the NCAA tournament? It just became, you knew that once a player tested positive, it was going to be a domino effect. And Rudy Gobert test positive, and then one of his teammates test positive, and then a referee from the Colonial test positive, and it was a domino from there. And you just kind of got the sense. We left that bar on Wednesday night in Cleveland with the men's quarterfinals on Thursday, and the thought in my mind was, Ball State's not going to play. We will not play a game tomorrow. Woke up, I was optimistic. No news, good news. I knew the athletic directors were meeting that morning, hadn't heard. Got to 11 o'clock, hadn't heard. Quarterfinal supposed to start at noon. Players are warming up. Ball State shot around, went to the arena. It was great. TV was there. And left shoot around. At 11:30, I left the hotel. I went to CrossFit CLE in Cleveland. I was going to do the noon workout. And on my way to the gym, I walked. It's a mile and a half from the hotel. I get the notification that there's a press conference. There's no way I'm going to make it to this press conference. I'm in gym clothes a mile and a half away from, the arena. I don't have a camera. I don't have a recorder. I have nothing on me. It starts in 15 minutes. And there was the notification that the games were being postponed until 1 o'clock. So I thought, all right, you know what? The press conference will be online. I'll be able to get some audio from it. I'll use it in my pregame show. Clearly the games are still getting played. Cool beans. Go from there. Get to the gym. Start stretching, start warming up, and I'm constantly refreshing my phone, and that's when the Big Ten canceled. And then the ACC, and the SEC, and the wave began, and then the news that the Mid-American Conference was canceling its conference tournament. So I left CrossFit, I was there for about 5 minutes, ran back to the hotel, showered, changed, and my athletic director calls me. I had asked if I could interview her just to get her perspective. We'll put it out on social media. She was in the AD meeting. What did you guys decide? How did you decide it? It's 12:35. She says, we have a meeting at 1. Can you be at the arena before that? At this point, I'm in a towel. I said, yes. threw on a sweater, threw on some khakis, threw on my dress pants, pick up my camera box, which is about 30 pounds, my laptop case, which is bulging with a hard drive as well, put that in the other hand, run down to the elevator, take the elevator to the ground, and run out of Tower City Center in Cleveland to Quicken Loans Arena. It's about 0.6 miles away. I get to the first door, it's locked. I get to the second door, it's locked. I'm banging on the door. I'm like, can you let me in? There's a guy there, but they can't let me in. The doors are locked. Physically, they couldn't open them, which I found out later when I tried to leave the arena. I finally get to the media entrance because it was all the way on the other side of the arena. I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, I'm running out of time. They won't let me in the media entrance. The building is on lockdown. Eventually, they let us in. People come up and get us. I go down there. I interview our AD. And by the time I even got done editing, they had announced that spring sports were canceled. So we put the video up online anyway. It was still applicable, and faced the reality that I had done my last broadcast for the year. And, broadcasting gymnastics on Big Ten Network next week was not going to happen. And broadcasting the Women's Division II National Championship for CBS Sports Network was not going to happen. And broadcasting Ball State baseball and softball this season was not going to happen. And the rest of Ball State men's volleyball was not going to happen. And you just kind of sat there and you felt like the world was burning. Everything was getting canceled. And then I got home, and naturally, I planned on being out of town for 6 days. I had no food, so I went to the grocery store, and the line wrapped around the grocery store. It was like 40 people deep to get to a cash register. Unless you went to the self-checkout, which is what I did, and that was much shorter. I don't know why more people didn't do that, but that's another issue. I only have one roll of toilet paper left. I don't know why everyone needs toilet paper. Incredible. There's no meat. I had to go back today to get meat because it was gone. Vegetables, surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, nobody had taken any of the vegetables. I got all the vegetables I needed. That was weird. Fruit too, but it's wild. And walked into work this morning with this weird reality that we have no games to broadcast. We have no games to cover, to write about, and our student athletes have nothing. There's no classes on campus for the next 3 months, which is weird. And from a professional standpoint, it kind of sucks because that's what we love to do. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my weekends because I don't have them ever. Like, I work. And if I'm not calling a game, I'm reviewing a game or I'm prepping for the next one. So it's going to be interesting. Like, I'm going to have to think of ways to get out of my apartment. And as it gets nicer, it probably won't be as hard. I'll go hike some national parks or some state parks, maybe some national parks. Probably do some weekend getaways. But it's just like, I might go to the Kentucky Derby, which I've never done. I've always wanted to, and I've always had a broadcast. So that'll be cool. I hate large crowds though, so we'll see. But it is a weird existence to be in right now, and I'm sure all of you guys listening to this can empathize with that from your own experiences. It's been weird. Anyway, that is a 13-minute intro to what is the return edition of Play-by-PlayCast, and you didn't come here to hear me ramble about why the pod went away and what my day in Cleveland was like. You came here to listen to Mike Monaco. He is, of all the young broadcasters in this business, a guy that has like the biggest rocket strapped to his back in this entire industry. I got to know Mike Monaco when he was the television voice of the Western Michigan Broncos in the Mid-American Conference, and that was like 3 years ago, and now he's calling Duke UNC. He is a voice on the ACC Network. He has worked the last couple years with the Pawtucket Red Sox and was doing some spring training games this year until that went away on Nesson with the Red Sox. He is phenomenal. His approach is phenomenal. His voice is phenomenal. He is going to be a big-time name and a big-time player in this field for a very long time. So I had the pleasure to sit down with Mike, which is something I've wanted to do for a very long time on this podcast, and finally got him. Mike Monaco is our guest on episode number 169 of PXPcast. Welcome back. People ask me all the time if there are people that when I ask them to be on the podcast have said no. And usually that's like this is beneath them type deal, but you, Mike Monaco, are the only person who has said previously that you didn't think you were worthy enough of being on the podcast. How things change. Welcome to PXPcast.
I wouldn't say that means that I now feel worthy of being on it, but I just felt bad having said no multiple times. And really, it's because, especially with all the guests that you've gotten, I've listened to so many of them and thought, oh, wow, I love what they said there. Or, oh, yeah, this is great, too. I could, apply that to what I do going forward, that I didn't really feel like I had a whole lot to offer in that space. And not necessarily that I still do, but as a friend, felt bad saying no another time. So here we are.
That said, though, your last, 2 years, but really last 6 months have been like someone strapped a rocket to your back in this industry. Describe from your perspective what it's been like for you since September.
Yeah, it's funny, I don't really think of it in that standpoint. Like, I do enough different stuff and have done enough different stuff really since I graduated college that, being a little bit all over the place and things changing and doing something new, that's just kind of been the norm. So I don't know how much it feels like that to me necessarily, but certainly some new stuff in the last 6 months, which has been a ton of fun. And a change too in terms of just lifestyle, things that are different. So, it's been a fun 6 months. It's been a fun few years, whatever time frame you want to put on it.
What is different lifestyle wise? Like what changes when you go to a network type deal and you're going around and game hopping and doing the types of things you're doing?
Yeah. So, this is the first year I'm not calling any games in basketball season for a team. So for people who don't know, that's probably most people outside of the Mid-American Conference bubble. I spent 4 years or parts of 4 years calling men's and women's basketball at Western Michigan. And that's how we first got to know each other. And so this is the first year not doing anything like that. So it's a little more consistent in terms of, hopping on a flight the day before a basketball game and going to wherever that is, calling a game and coming home after it, and rinse and repeat. And as far as sort of basketball season goes, the big, I would say, lifestyle difference for me this season is that I don't have, my feet dipped in a lot of different buckets there. And I'm just staying in one place, working for one company. And so, that's been different. And in a lot of ways, it's made the travel less crazy than it was when you're freelancing in a few different spots and you feel like you have to say yes to everything, every sport, every game, every opportunity. So it's made it a little more normal, I guess, from that standpoint.
You haven't submitted expense reports to the wrong company for the wrong thing.
No, but I have been very close to tweeting like multiple times that I think like when my obituary comes out, cause of death will definitely be expense reports. And that's not necessarily just from freelancing in multiple places. I'm just bad at expense reports, and they pile up on me pretty fast.
Yeah, the meal money is free until you forget to claim it. That's where they get you.
Yes, all the above on that.
What is different from your standpoint in broadcasting games the way that you have been this season versus previous seasons? And I mean that from particularly on the men's side. And I found this like when I haven't done a ton this year, but when I do a men's game on a national scale, it's different for me than doing it doing a women's basketball on the national scale. And both of those are different than doing, the same team every time. Because if we're doing a MAC school, I don't like the presentation of who people are and what's at stake, I feel like is different than if you're taking a team that people don't necessarily know. Because if they're tuning in to watch ESPN3, like they're probably Western Michigan fans or fans of the opposing team. If you're doing a women's basketball game on a national stage, I always feel like my duty is A, to broadcast the game, but also B, to inform people of who these people are, because they probably have never met them before and don't know who, Libby Basilak is from Iota, who plays at Duquesne, by the way. But if you're doing a men's game on a national stage, like, you're not going to sit down with Coach K and be like, so, this Zion kid, tell me what he does well. Your questions and your prep, I feel like, have to be different and honed in and specific when you're doing games on an ACC network at that level with people and players that everybody knows and storylines that people are accustomed to. What's your approach been to that side of things and having to tell a new story and not the same old for someone who maybe has seen that story before?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways you towed the line perfectly of something I've spent a lot of time thinking about, because, and I wouldn't even necessarily delineate it necessarily by gender, but like I think of it for, let's say, a college baseball game that I have done. A lot of times, I'll say to a head coach of a team, hey, can you just, if you wouldn't mind, can you go through what you expect your starting lineup to be tomorrow? And can you give me a thought on each guy? And I'll have done research and prep and know to some extent, different things about guys, but I would never, walk up to Tony Bennett and say, hey, Tony, can we go over your top 8 guys in the rotation here? Give me a thought on everyone.
Diakite, what's he do?
Yeah. Well, what's he like as a player? Has he had any big moments in his career in the Elite Eight, anything like that? No. So it is different. And I think, the questions do get more pointed and specific. And I think the whole mindset of calling a game is a little bit different in terms of, most ACC teams, all their games, are on TV, and sometimes even all their non-conference games are on TV as opposed to being maybe just streamed digitally. And so, fans have the chance to watch them throughout the season, and, they might roll their eyes at you, if you're giving the same descriptors for players that they've been hearing all season, even though it's your first time broadcasting that game. I mean, it was like a running joke where I went to school at Notre Dame about their middle linebacker in, 2014, 2015, Joe Schmidt. Great story because he was a former walk-on and turned into a captain and team MVP of the team. But every week the announcers would say, hey, Joe Schmidt, former walk-on. And to some extent there would be just an acknowledgement of being a former walk-on, or maybe delve into the story some of how he got to be where he'd be. Well, if you think about it, for Notre Dame fans, they probably heard that story, 12 times. And so it becomes like a running joke from that standpoint. Whereas, doing maybe a college baseball game where these teams aren't on TV all the time, you're kind of getting the first crack at it, and you get to tell stories that haven't been told. And so it just gives you more to work with. But I think on the flip side of that, doing a game of a team or teams that are always on TV, you get a fun chance to dig a little bit deeper. And if it's a bigger sport, a bigger stage, you're going to have casual fans more so tuning in just to watch it than you might, like you said, if it's a game in the Mid-American Conference up on ESPN3. The people probably logging onto their accounts to watch it probably really care about it. But so you do get to pay off kind of stuff that has been explored before by knowing that there are some casual fans out there.
So what are the types of things you ask Tony Bennett?
I think specific stuff from the last game or the last few games, or if you want to know something, maybe about a guy's past that you haven't heard. I love asking coaches, like, especially with a freshman player, like, hey, what's your favorite recruiting story with this guy? Because in any sport, these coaches are spending ridiculous parts of their lives in terms of length out recruiting, and it can be pretty thankless, and you miss on guys or girls, and you don't get the recruits and the commitments that you want. But I would imagine they see some pretty wild stuff out on the road. We all have crazy travel stories from what we do. They probably have crazy stories from traveling on the road out recruiting. So I like that sort of thing. I think over the last few years, I've become different in how I prep, in terms of kind of watching more film like an analyst would, to try to just pick up on some stuff. Not that I would pick up on anything near the same amount of stuff that a former player or former coach or any analyst would, but you might pick up on some stuff and then, float it by your analyst and shoot around, and then maybe ask the coach about it. Hey, what are you seeing with that? Sometimes I find that gets really cool answers, giving more insight to a player and what they do or what their backstory is.
How have you meshed with your analysts this year too? Full new roster of guys that have done it for a long time. What's that growing experience been like?
I hope we've meshed well, but not for me to answer. No, but it's been great. I love working with new people, and whether it's one-off here and there, or getting to do a bunch of games with a certain person. That's been the case for me with a few of the analysts I've worked with this basketball season. I think the cool thing is, and this might sound cliche, but it's kind of how I view it. Like, every analyst has something that they do really well, maybe more so than others, or some part of their experience that they're great at, or many things that they do great at. But like, they're all different, and you can all kind of, you can go back to kind of a wheelhouse that maybe the last person you worked with, maybe that wasn't their specialty. So like certain guys who are great with the rules, and I can fire off a bunch of questions to them that I'm wondering about the rules, and get some stuff out of them. Or like I just worked with Paul Biancardi, who for ESPN is their national recruiting director for basketball. He's seen a lot of these guys since they were maybe sophomores in high school or maybe earlier, and he knows their families and he knows their AAU coaches. Like, that's incredible to learn that sort of thing, and get that sort of insight from them. So like, I want to keep going there to their wheelhouse and try to pull that stuff from them.
What do you think separates, and this is like a weird introspective question, and I don't, like, this might be weird to be braggadocious, but like, what do you think separates what you do? Like, what is the elevator in the way that you do a broadcast and the way that you approach things, that you consciously do, you think, that makes the product better, that makes people in Bristol say, yeah, we wanted that guy?
Yeah. Wow. Definitely a question I am not qualified to answer. I don't know.
But I mean, is there something that you have been like, hey, like I'm conscious about how I do this thing, or I'm conscious about how I work these calls, or how I work with an analyst, that you think, hey, this is something that I'm really proud of, the way that I've been able to grow and better myself as a broadcaster?
Yeah, I think the way I would answer it is just the things that I focus on, the things that are important. And, that's a long list for all of us. And it's, we're kind of operating all from the same idea of, how we want to do this and stuff. But I think a huge thing, especially on a TV broadcast or a streamed broadcast, as opposed to maybe a radio broadcast, like, I want to be a good teammate as far as the crew goes, and working with them and the ideas that they have and the shots that they're showing, and then like be a great partner too, like first and foremost. And like, that comes down to like being as simple as just listening. Like, it's so easy for me, and I find myself doing this, without wanting to, but my head starts going to, what's the next nugget I want to put in there? What's the next, note that I have written down or typed out on my boards that I can plug in here and make it the right fit. Well, I find, when I do that, sometimes I just miss a part of what my analyst is saying. And that, that's a constant, battle to just, sometimes look away from your board and your notes and just listen and just go wherever they're going. So that's something I'm really always trying to be focused on, and not that I do it perfectly, like I just said. But that, just working well with the crew, I think those are, really the biggest things. And then just being prepared and not trying to inject stuff out of place that has to be forced into a game. Just kind of ride out the emotion of the game and just match the emotion of the game too. Not just in the big moments, but in the funny small down moments when someone on the bench is doing something funny or a coach has a funny reaction shot during a dead ball. Just kind of match the emotion of the game too. So I don't know how much that
No, you're good.
But that's the stuff that I try to focus on.
How much thinking do you do over a course of a game? We always say about athletes, like, don't think the game, just play the game. But how much mental exhaustion goes into it for you in terms of physically as a call is happening, thinking about how you're going to call something and the way you use your instrument, not to get too wonky about it, but how much physical thinking during the game do you do in terms of how you talk, when you talk, and why you talk?
Yeah, still probably a good deal. Tough to say without knowing how to compare it to other people, but and how much thinking that they do. But, I still think I'm thinking through hey, is this the right time to say this? Or, should I lay out here after a big three and the crowd gets into it and we're going to a commercial break because there was a timeout? You're still thinking through some of that stuff. Some of it does, it just comes out, and then how you react to it comes out. But I think, still a fair amount of thought that goes into kind of the moments and the comments that you're going to make, because you are dealing with, other factors other than just, hey, do I make this choice in my own bubble to say this? Well, no, you're kind of, at the mercy of what your analyst has been saying. And do you have to follow up with what they just said, or do you want to follow up with it? And, what does the producer want to do here? And what is the director showing you? So I think from that standpoint, you get a lot of thought that does go into it. But certainly there are moments where it just comes out all naturally and you feel like you've got your handle on it. And similar to coaches talking about freshmen or something. Oh, you can still see the game's a little fast for them and they're thinking things. I think probably you would guess with time, maybe that changes, but definitely a lot of thought into it.
I guess I bring it up from the standpoint of, I was thinking about some of my own stuff last week, and I was watching back and thinking, gosh, and this is going to be a great example as I just roll on with the question forever. But it was I feel like I could have told that story nugget tidbit in 8 seconds instead of the 17 that it took me. And there's a thought process of, once you get into it, how I'm going to deliver it and doing it the right way and making sure it comes out the right way. And I don't know, is that something, do you think about, hey, these are stories I'm going to tell, or I could tell over the course of a game, and I want to have an idea of how I'm going to talk about them, so it's not rambling, but it's not a drawn out thing. And like Tirico gets all this praise because he can tell a guy's life story in 6 seconds. Is there a thought process that you have that goes into the way that you prepare to talk about people so that you can do it in the most succinct and precise manner, as opposed to just having kind of a general idea, oh, if this comes up, I've got this guy's story, I can check my notes on it, and we'll get into it?
Mm-hmm. I think it's somewhere in between. I organize my boards for basketball, let's say. I do it for other sports as well, but let's just take basketball. On my boards, I have it kind of ordered by what I want to say first. In theory, oh, this guy's the preseason ACC player of the year. That might be the first note on my board if that is how I think it's the best way to introduce a guy. So I try to do my preparation in that way and reorganize stuff and then have it all printed out, in a way where, okay, this is kind of my thinking of, what are the best stories or the funniest stories or the most interesting or most important. You've got to say this to introduce this guy to the crowd. But then I do think that once the game starts, I might glance it over, once I show up at the arena just to kind of jog my memory on some stories or some topics or some stats. But then once the game starts, I try to just go wherever it goes. And if in the flow of the action, something comes up that, I had prepared for, maybe then I can get it in. Or if, the person I'm working with, my partner says something that is right up that alley, then maybe it just happens naturally there. I guess in game it's maybe less thinking, and in advance definitely a lot of thinking that goes into it. And then after the fact too, like if you go back and watch your game, which I try to do, you go back and watch it and you think, oh, that didn't really come out that great, or you just sounded like you were listing facts and stories at that point. So I guess maybe it's more so thinking ahead of time and thinking after the fact, and then hopefully in game just knowing, oh yeah, like here, this is the point where this came up, this is where I'm going to say it.
Interesting. It was just curious. It was on my mind from last week, so figured I'd go down that path with you. Is there a difference in working with various networks? You've worked with a bunch of them, and everybody always says that people have a different ear, and people, what's good is good to one person is different to another person. In terms of how you approach calling a game with what different people want and kind of broadcasting to your audience, and how has that maybe changed how you've approached different games?
Yeah, I think it probably is the case that people who work for a certain network or in charge of different networks, or the hiring people there. Yeah, I mean, they have different tastes and tendencies to what they want it to sound like. I guess from my own experience, I haven't heard a ton of that in terms of like, hey, no, here at this company, this is the way we do it. Or, other people in the industry do it this way, and, we're not going to do it that way. I haven't heard a ton of that.
You just do you and...
Well, yeah, until I hear otherwise, But there are certain little things that, like, you can just sense that are different. Like, for instance, I think at a place like ESPN, like just by the nature of the size of the company and, their reach in terms of the number of channels they have, like it makes sense that they're going to have they're going to have a bunch of different topics that come up in terms of promos and things like that, let's say, or graphics that they might be showing in a blowout. Like they might have, promotions for different sports and different channels than you might get, just on one network that's dedicated to, even the difference between doing a game on ESPN or ESPNU and the ACC network. Like the ACC network, we're just going to promote stuff that's happening in the ACC and on that channel. Whereas when I've done games for non-ACC network at ESPN, you got to be ready to read a promo about the NBA, or about whatever sport they have or big event coming up. So I do think there's some differences in that standpoint, but nothing that's ever been spelled out to me like, hey, you did it this way, but now you need to shift your thinking the way we do it here.
Right. I want to ask you about baseball a little bit, because it's a little bit of a different world than collegiate athletics in some respects. Just because I feel like the divide is so different. Like you've done a ton of minor league baseball. I've never called a major league game. I know you've gotten the chance to with Nesson a little bit, but I have been in a major league clubhouse, and it was, to me, like wildly different than what it was walking into a minor league clubhouse. So from a broadcaster's standpoint, what was it like for you, having done Paw Sox games for the last couple of years and then walking into a Red Sox clubhouse and experiencing that major league vibe and having to deal with major league players?
Yeah. I think, I compare like my minor league experience in terms of the question of, being in a clubhouse. I'll compare it to my first year in minor league baseball. So I did a couple of years broadcasting summer college baseball in the Cape Cod League. And then my first minor league proper baseball job was in Single A in South Bend, Indiana, Single A Cubs affiliate, the South Bend Cubs. And, I got to know a lot of those players really well because we were all kind of the same age. Mm-hmm. I was finishing up my senior year of college, then graduated, finished out that season. And a lot of these guys had, been drafted in the last year or two, or, had signed out of foreign countries and, had progressed for a few years. So we were all kind of the same age. And like, I could go into the clubhouse there and play ping pong against guys on the team. And, if I tried that at Fenway.
Mookie Betts wouldn't have that. That's too soon.
We wouldn't be doing this podcast right now if I tried to pull that at Fenway. Or I just got back from, as we sit here and record this, being down at spring training at the Red Sox complex and walking into the clubhouse, and having never been in a spring training clubhouse before, there's 67 guys in there, first of all. And then, there's a ton of reporters standing in there too. And there's a definitive time that the clubhouse is open. And you have this hour window, let's say, on this particular day to be in there. And there's just a throng of reporters in there. And it's just a different vibe. Whereas, I think back to those single A years, I could just wander in whenever I wanted to and go talk to whoever I wanted to. And, hey, let's go record an interview. All right. Where do you want to do it? Yeah, let's walk wherever, talk for however long, and then sit around and talk more about whatever we wanted to. So that was a very different experience from the little major league exposure that I've had. But, maybe that changes with time for the people that have been in the majors for a while. Maybe they feel the comfort to kind of wander in whenever they want, much like some experiences in the minors are.
What is calling a big league game like?
Great question. It was very similar. I think once the game started, in terms of, hey, and I reminded myself that before it, like, you've called however many 100 minor league games before, college games before, you've done a lot of baseball. I think one thing that was different right off the bat was, way more like promos to read. When I was doing the games on NESN, and NESN's kind of known for that. Like, they have a lot of elements or, sales elements, stuff that's sponsored. And so like leading up to the game, I was like, hey, I definitely want to make sure I know that the weather is sponsored by Marvin, and that, this game is available with the function to put it into Spanish on your TV, and, buyatoyota.com. They're your official website for deals, like all this stuff that you don't really worry about as much in the minors, at least for the teams that I've worked for. That was a difference for sure. The ballpark, like the sight lines, that was something I kind of wanted to familiarize myself with beforehand, because especially in the lower levels of the minors, the ballparks are typically on a smaller scale than certainly the majors, but sometimes even compared to AAA as well, where I've had a few years of experience. So I think kind of just sizing up a ballpark and what it looks like, that was something that I was kind of worried about ahead of time too.
How'd you work with a guy like Jerry Remy? And I mean, I guess this goes to what we talked about with basketball people too, but like, he's been doing this for like 1,000 years, and he's the icon. And you're the guy who's sitting there like, hey, I'm trying to do my first big league game and do a good job, but I have to, like, you're basically placating to wherever he wants to go with it. How was that first experience like, working on that stage with somebody, somebody's, if you throw in Eck, like that?
Yeah, I think a few things made my life way easier than it could have been, or than you could have worried it to have been. But I think the first thing was that both Jerry and Eck were both beyond welcoming to me. So like that first day I walked into the booth, I had never met Jerry Remy before, and he was already there, and just, what he said to me beforehand just put me at ease, and he was nothing but welcoming. There couldn't have been more warmth, just for, hey, we're excited to have you here. You're going to do a great job. Like, we'll work with you wherever you want to go. And it's going to be a blast. And more of the same from Eck as well, when I met him a little later. And then the other part of it, I would say, is those two guys work so well together. They're former teammates. They're both great at what they do. They work together so well that, for me, it was a lot of, okay, like, you can introduce some topics You can bring up different points that you want to, not to feel like, that I couldn't add my own input to it. But a lot of it was, all right, like introduce something, steer the ship a little bit, and then wherever they want to go, just let them go. And then, ask them why or follow up on it or stay out of their way and let them banter back and forth and just be there and enjoy it and not make it about, I need to tell this story or, I've written this down, so I want to say this. It was really easy just because of how good they are and how funny they are together to just kind of sit back and just let it go wherever it went. It couldn't have been a better experience working with them, and then definitely with the whole crew as well. It was a total blast, needless to say.
A couple questions I want to ask you. We're gonna try this at the end of every podcast from here on out, where I'll throw a grouping of the same or similar questions at people. First one I have for you is the information you need to have for every broadcast is like if I stripped everything away from you and said you get one thing, what's the one thing? And beyond, like I need to know their stats or their hometowns. What's one thing that you need to know to feel comfortable going into a game?
One thing I need to know about players. I mean, I know this is probably not the spirit of the question, but I think if you can identify the players, obviously you want to do that and can do that, but I think if you can do that,
it's actually underrated.
yeah, but then if that's all you have, I guess I think about it that way. If that's all you have and your analyst is watching the game and they're picking up on maybe body language, that's something Dan Dockich does so incredibly well. He can read the body language of something and make pretty accurate comments based on what that means because of it. If you can pick up on the body language of players and then just break down the game, you can still get a lot out of it just by knowing 15 is Jones and 22 is Walker, and you can work with your partner just based on what they're seeing from the game action. If I'm talking what one thing beyond the obvious of knowing who's who, I guess maybe what they've done recently, that helps kind of paint the story of, what's going on with this team. And maybe is that why he's a little gun shy if he isn't playing that well, or, she's been red hot recently and now she comes out and she's taking shots that indicate she's got that sort of confidence. I don't know if that fits, but that's a great question.
No, I mean, it's going to sound weird, but there are definitely times where I've had games where I'm like, God, I can't, for whatever reason, name association, number association just doesn't work. And the first few minutes of those games are usually hellacious.
Yeah. And that's why, I think it's I was saying, watching more film. Yep. The reason I do it too is just, I want to walk in the shooter and be like, yep, that's him. Yep.
He's the guy with the hair. He's the guy with the shoes.
Yeah. And just have seen them and kind of know how they move. And you watch a game of film on a team, you kind of know what the guy's skill set is without even being an analyst. Yeah. I find that helpful as far as identifying goes.
Second thing, what are a couple of things that you do every day that make you a better broadcaster?
I try to watch other broadcasters for at least a few minutes every day and be pretty particular about it. Not just, I wanted to watch, the NFL games and just not only watch them as a fan. If I'm in basketball season, maybe, pointedly flip on a game, even if it's just for 5 minutes, and try to take a few notes on what, Sean McDonough is doing that I think is so great, and stuff that maybe I could incorporate, or he has a phrase that works really well. I think that helps toward broadcasting. I try to read. I haven't been as great about it as I want recently, but at least have a head in a book or some sort of morning reading or prayer or something like that to start my day and center myself.
You actually kind of stole into the next question. I've got 4. It was going to be, who do you like to watch or listen to, and what do they do well? What draws you to them that you wish you could replicate? Or that you wish you could, not to be them, but that you wish you could, do well in your own right?
Yeah. The list is way too long because, like I said, I try to make that a pretty consistent part of my day and just how I approach the industry. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of the same names as a lot of people look up to, like a Sean McDonough and an unmatched humor, really, like incredible with the humor and on top of just calling a game at such a high level and making it sound like a big game. Mike Tirico, like you said, he's just ultra smooth and can, get to the crux of something so quickly. But just, a lot of people from all over, Brian Anderson, Adam Amin, Mike Cousins, Kevin Brown, Lisa Byington. I've learned a ton from her from my time at Big Ten Network. Leaving out countless people, but kind of what I was saying earlier about analysts, like there's something that, a play-by-play person does that's probably different from how you do it, and I think you can learn a lot from it.
Last thing, on that note, what's the one thing you're working, or what's one thing or what's something that you're working on right now, or that bugs you right now?
Probably a lot of things that bug me. I want to do things better, at a higher level. But something right now that I've been focused on, especially in basketball season, is like matching the emotion of the game and like living the game. Like, I think this is someone I left out, Ian Eagle. I think he and plenty others do it really well, but like just the way he is pronouncing words, like he is so into whatever game that he's calling, like so invested in it. And it doesn't mean that he's out there screaming, like he's absolutely not doing that, but like he's matching the emotion of the game and the ebbs and flows of it, and a shot that rattles off the rim. Like you can hear it in his voice. And I think too, like matching the emotion of your partner. Like if someone has, like a defensive rebound and your partner is fired up about it, like you should be trying to match the emotion that they have too, and not just saying like, oh, like the 6'2" junior, like, is at the free throw line, like you should try to be like invested in what they're invested in. And I think I read this in the Ringer at some point in the last couple of years, but it was an article about Marv Albert, and it's like the way that he says certain words, it's like they're almost italicized, and not just the way he lets out a yes call on a made 3, but it's like he's like extracting more emotion without even really changing his volume, just in the way he says something. So that's a very, to use the word you used earlier, that's like a wonky answer, but trying to like match the emotion of a game and the way your partner feels about it, I think is something I'm trying to do better.
All right, that's Mike Monaco of the ACC Network joining us here on PXPcast. Many thanks to Mike for taking the time. I know he was shy and sheepish to do it, as he said off the beginning, but humble to the core. He is more than deserving of being on this podcast, and hopefully you guys are able to glean from his opinions and his preparation and the way that he goes about doing what he does today. If you have suggestions for people you want to hear on the podcast, tweet them at us and tag those people in them. That's my new thing. Like if we can get people tagged, we can stir up some noise, and a lot of people have a lot to do, or not a lot to do, I think right now. So it might be a good opportunity to get some folks on the podcast, and interact with us on social media. Let us know how you are going to spend your newfound free time that you may have come across over the next couple of weeks and months. At PXPcast, let us know what you're going to try to do professionally or for fun or to fill hours that you would have had filled otherwise. Hit us up at PXPcast. Until next time, my name is Joel Gadet, the music is Marshmallow, and we are out.
And that will do it from St. Louis, where the score is inconclusive.